And good morning, friends. Welcome to Here I Stand. Pastor Calvin Lindstrom, Pastor James Pittman. Today discussing the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. And if we have time, just to ask the question again, where are we as a nation? That's a big question, but I like to reflect on where are we heading? What's the bigger picture as it's taking place, and try to give at least some feedback on that. Can't give a total answer to all of these serious questions, but we do our best on this. James, you're doing some of the back end stuff. Let me just share for people who are not as familiar with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Okay. Let me this is from Wikipedia. Good or bad.
Okay.
Let me just read this. August 25th, 2020. That's the key night. The unrest in Kenosha. This is after the shooting of Jacob Blake. Mm-hmm. Kyle Rittenhouse, at the time he was 17 years old. He came up from Antioch. He regularly would go to Kenosha. I think he even worked there.
I think his father lived in Kenosha, right?
Oh, yeah, okay. So it's not like he's just, I'm going to go to Wisconsin and shoot people. He has a connection there. Yeah. And he did shoot and killed 2 and wounded another man. Someone gave him an AR-15 style rifle. One of his victims was armed with a handgun. And Rittenhouse, I have no reason to doubt him in this at all. He was there to help defend the police, or at least the governor of Wisconsin not doing his job. The local citizens are having to come up there. At the first location, Rittenhouse was pursued by a group, including Kenosha resident Joseph Rosenbaum. A gunshot was fired into the air by a third party, and according to a witness, an unarmed Rosenbaum lunged at Rittenhouse, attempted to take his rifle. Rittenhouse then fired 4 times at Rosenbaum, who died shortly afterwards. At the second location, Rittenhouse tripped while fleeing, and a man kicked him. Rittenhouse fired at the man twice, but missed. Protesters approached Rittenhouse while he was still on the ground, and Silver Lake resident Anthony Huber struck Rittenhouse with a skateboard and struggled for control of his rifle. Rittenhouse then fired at Huber, once killing him. West Allis resident Gage Grosskreutz then approached Rittenhouse while carrying a handgun. Rittenhouse shot him once, severing his right bicep. He was arrested, charged with multiple counts of homicide, unlawful possession of a firearm, and a 19-year-old man was arrested and charged with unlawfully supplying Rittenhouse's rifle. His defense has been he was acting in self-defense. And it, I think, it's been being spun as a white supremacy thing. Sure. And James, you might want to talk about our friend LeBron James, but just to share, LeBron saying, "What tears? I didn't see one. Man, knock it off. That boy ate some lemon heads before walking into court."
Terrible. I just don't understand what LeBron James wants to get out of this.
And then I like this response.
That is just terrible.
Speaking out against slave labor in China, accusing a teenager of fake crying in court. Yeah. Anyway,
that is just unbelievably terrible. But there are two parts in the trial that just garnered all types of national attention. One being probably the most powerful or the most circulated is when Kyle is actually on the stand,
mm-hmm.
and he's going through what happens, and he gets to the point right when he's going to recount the time in which he took someone's life,
mm-hmm.
and he breaks down in tears. Here it is right here.
Describe what happens.
I
once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder, and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side, and I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what That's what I run.
Time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case.
So, what does LeBron? The kid was 17 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and for the life of me, let's just again put this in context. Now, before I go any further, I'm not saying that Kyle Rittenhouse did everything right. Not saying that. I'm not saying that I agree 100% with everything he did. I'm not saying that. The larger premise is, one, he was up there, and they've got video and pictures of him and testimony. He was actually cleaning off graffiti. You actually see in the video, moments before those men were shot and killed, he's trying to put out the fire. That's why they attacked him. Remember that? He's trying to put out a fire. And they wanted the fire to burn the building down. That's why I think the altercation started in the first place, if my memory is certainly correct.
Yeah.
That's why they went after him. So here you have governors, policemen not doing their job, letting people's business get burned down, and you have the 17-year-old kid who's sitting at home saying, what's to be done with this? Let's do something. And so he goes there clearly, this was self-defense, in my opinion. And again, you want to nitpick here and there, 17-year-old kid out in a riot, AR, okay. But the context was what? How many other 17-year-old kids were burning, looting, who was out there with ill intent? That was not Kyle. He's running around with a medic pack on. Okay, so let's forget the fact that he was putting out fires. Let's forget the fact that he had a medic pack on. Let's forget the fact that he was wiping off graffiti. Let's ignore all the other people, grown people, teenagers who are out there with ill intent. This was one of the few people who was out there trying to do something positive.
Yeah.
And they attacked him. They attacked him because he was trying to do something positive. Now you're 17 years old. You want to nitpick here and there, that's fine. But just for the Calvin, the world is upside down.
Yeah.
They're not debating. This kid was trained for fireman and CPR. He was a lifeguard. By all accounts, he was a good kid. And you know, if he had any clan associations, or had he used the N-word on the social media, it would have come out by now.
Oh yeah.
You know it would have come out by now. None of it.
Yeah.
None of it. This seemed to be some sort of a good kid. And here's the next video. Look how CNN. I tell you, Calvin, it's just people. I don't get how people are just being so evil and just. I don't get it. But look how CNN portrays this. Look what CNN does. Oh my goodness.
Jeffrey, two thoughts. Two thoughts. What kind of idiot 17-year-old gets a giant gun and goes to a riot. He has no license. He has no training. He thinks he's going to scrub graffiti off with his AR-15. I mean, the stupidity of this is like, what could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot went wrong. The good news for Kyle Rittenhouse is that he's not on trial for being an idiot. He's on trial for homicide. Right. And in that respect, I mostly agree with Joey that this is a tough case for the prosecution because it does seem like he has a plausible case of self-defense. And, you know, if it were illegal to be an idiot, the jails would be even freer, even more crowded than they are now. Homicide's a different matter. And, you know, he may have a defense.
He may have a defense. He may have a defense here.
And this is the man who was, I think if you don't know about Jeffrey Tubin, I don't know if you want to look it up or not, but how is he still on air? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and just I'll try to make it family friendly as possible.
Yeah.
That was the man who was caught doing something while he was video chatting that he ought not to be doing. And he thought he was off camera, but he wasn't. But look at what he's saying. What type of idiot? Are we ignoring the other thousands of idiots who are burning buildings?
I know.
I mean, those idiots?
Yeah.
And we're talking about what type of idiot. The kid was trying to put out a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the idiots that attacked him not because he was doing something wrong, but because he was doing something right. He was trying to put out a fire. Mm-hmm. I think the three idiots that was attacking a man with an AR who was trying to put out a fire, I think those are the idiots. Well, look at CNN, and because he's on CNN, and because the evidence seems to be overwhelming, and he has to somehow say, yeah, the Rittenhouse seemed to be, self-defense. He has to throw his audience a bone by calling the kid an idiot.
Yeah.
So he's going to give us a legal analysis. It seems like the kid has a case for self-defense. But he's an idiot. He's an idiot. There were a bunch of idiots burning Kenosha down.
Yeah, James.
Kid who was trying to put it down.
Yeah, I want to share something. This is David Dorn. David Dorn was murdered as part of the riots in St. Louis.
St. Louis, yes, Missouri. Mm-hmm.
And how much attention has gone to his killing, right?
Nothing.
And compare that to that couple also in the St. Louis area trying to defend their home.
Yep.
Right?
And they were white supremacists also, though.
Was more attention given to the murder, the killing of David Dorn, or to those two couples trying to defend themselves, right? I mean, that's the nature of our society, isn't it? It's so sad.
It's unbelievable. And Calvin, if anyone saw the video, clear. The prosecutor is trying to bring fault on Kyle Rittenhouse because the guy is standing over him with a gun. And at one point, as the guy is standing over him with a gun, the prosecutor is saying, but he's not a threat because he didn't fire yet.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm saying, are you kidding me? This prosecutor, Calvin, I yesterday I saw like an hour on my lunch break. I only meant to watch like 15 minutes. I think I wound up watching closer to 50 minutes. And I was enamored. I was shocked at how terrible the prosecutor was.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just. And here's my last. Now, before I do that, talking about an idiot. Again, I'm not saying that Kyle Rittenhouse did everything right. That is not what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, here's one thing that he can legitimately be criticized for. But again, he's a 17-year-old kid. Moments, if you share this picture, moments after the murder, he's in a bar with a T-shirt that says "Free as F U," the cuss word.
Yeah.
That's moments after he's released from the police station after this. Now,
Yeah.
he's a young kid. Bad decision.
Yeah.
Should not have done it. But you can't take that and just run with it and now make him guilty. But I think this is for those of you who have not seen this. Here's the last video I want to play in this. You have a prosecutor who I think this is a political prosecution. Clearly,
Yeah.
he didn't want. I don't know if he wanted this case,
Yeah.
Calvin. Who would want this case? But he's trying to get Kyle Rittenhouse to say you wanted to kill him,
Yeah.
right? You wanted to kill him, right? If you haven't seen this, this is amazing to me. Here's the last video I want to play.
Everybody that you shot at night, you intended to kill, correct?
I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me.
By killing them.
I did what I had to do to stop the person who was attacking me.
By killing them.
2 of them passed away, but I stopped the threat from attacking me.
By using deadly force.
I used deadly force.
That you knew was going to kill them.
I didn't know if it was going to kill them, but I used deadly force to stop the threat that was attacking me.
You intentionally used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, correct?
Yes.
You intentionally used deadly force against the man who came and tried to kick you in the face,
Yes.
correct? You intentionally used deadly force against Anthony Huber, correct?
Yes.
You intentionally used deadly force against Gage Grosskreutz, correct?
Yes.
With regard to Joseph Rosenbaum, you fired 4 shots at him, correct?
Yes.
You intended to kill him, correct?
I didn't intend to kill him. I intended to stop the person who was attacking me and steal my gun.
Now,
Yeah.
what kind of prosecutor is that?
Yeah.
It's just, because I don't know if people know this with my Conceal and Carry class, you are allowed to stop the threat. You're not allowed to intentionally kill someone.
Mhm.
That's what he keeps trying to get this kid to say you intentionally killed him. Nope. But this prosecutor is amazing to me.
Well, James, I don't know if you saw the Babylon Bee, but the
No, I
state
didn't see
regrets
that.
hiring Lionel Hoots to prosecute Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know if this is true. I'm not even familiar with this character, but
I'm not either.
the story is we were told he was one of the best, said the mayor of Kenosha, Bob Kenosha. Some guy down at Moe's Tavern told us he was the man for the job. I'm feeling pretty disappointed right now.
Oh man.
Apparently Lionel Hoots thought he was on the defense team, said Mayor Kenosha. But that's the B, and I put the B and CNN about at the same level. A slight edge to the Babylon Bee over CNN on those news stories, but
I mean, it's terrible. I think I was looking at Tucker. I think 2 nights ago. Every witness the prosecution brought up strengthened the defense's case.
yes,
Oh my goodness!
yes, yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Now, James, I wanna put you on the spot here.
Go ahead.
I shared in the pre-show prep. This is an article by K. Edward Copeland, and this was written about a year ago, and so this was just a few days actually after the Rittenhouse case. They're putting. I think this is that Jacob Blake on the left,
I believe so. Yes. Looks
and
like.
then that's obviously Rittenhouse. So I don't know if Copeland just editorially had any control over this, but they're putting Blake and Rittenhouse there. To me, those are vastly different stories.
Of course. And
just to try to juxtapose them,
dishonest.
yeah, I think so. I mean,
Dishonest.
it's like putting Jesse Smollett and Rittenhouse. I think those are I'm just
Dishonest.
anyway. Then this is what he says, and he's talking about how he hates August because of things that have happened in August. Jacob Blake's paralyzed body was handcuffed to a hospital bed. Kyle
As it
Rittenhouse
should have
killed
been.
people in the middle of the street on camera in front of
100%.
witnesses, and then smoking rifle at his side, casually strolled past law enforcement. I don't know if that's true, James. I don't. I'm not
Well,
sure what law
in
enforcement.
testimony that I saw, when he got up when he got up from shooting the guy, he ran toward the police. But I think
Yeah,
the police was gone, and that the police wasn't there, but then he went to the Antioch Police Department and turned himself in.
yeah.
So I don't know if I don't know if that's necessarily true.
When armed mass shooters, Kyle Rittenhouse and Dylan Roof, are apprehended without incident, and
Wow.
unarmed black people are killed out of fear that they might be armed, we have a more
Wow.
insidious problem than a few bad apples.
Wow.
If your default impulse is to try to justify the 7 or 8 bullet holes in Jacob Blake's body, just just consider the facts we actually do know about Kyle. He took lives in front of physical and digital witnesses. He's alive, no bullet holes in his body. He will be charged and tried in court, not on the streets, as it should be in a just society.
What?
I just, yeah,
And who is this guy, Calvin?
he's writing for the Gospel Coalition. I think he's a
Oh my goodness, that's the guy. You know what? I missed that. That's the Gospel Coalition.
Yeah, he got his D-min at your school there, James, at our school.
Oh.
So that I think that article potentially is libelous.
Of course it is.
And
you know,
that's
Calvin, in Showprint, we're talking that Christians should be the arbiters of truth. We should be people of truth.
Yeah.
We should have the best discernment on earth. When a man does that,
yeah,
if the Holy Spirit is supposed to lead us into all truth, and you're that far off, no, I get it. Some people are off. When it comes to eschatology, there's a lot of grace there, obviously, right? We don't know. But something like this, and particularly African Americans, when you can't see the truth staring you right in the face and you automatically go to some sort of racial injustice, that really is telling. I don't know if someone who has the Holy Spirit can do such things. Now, we can be deceived here and there. But man, when the deception is so strong and it goes on for so long, it's like CRT is your God,
right?
And you must worship at the feet of your God, and all truth must fall to the narrative of your God. That's a problem. That's a big problem.
Nope. I know. James, I attended a couple, about a little over a month ago, I attended a meeting of mostly African American pastors in Chicago, and they had a rep from the police union. It was an interesting meeting, but at that meeting they mentioned there are 3 million 911 calls in Chicago every year.
That's
Can you imagine that? Now, for a variety of things, and at the end there was a pastor, an older man, African American pastor. He's in one of the south suburbs, father of I think of like 10 or 11 kids, and he spoke, and he at the end he said it comes down to the parents.
Of course it does.
And you know what? A lot of other people there, I think they were talking about this program and that program and this and that. And, obviously officers need to be properly trained how to handle situations. I mean,
correct.
We're not doubting that training is not needed. But anyway, it was very, I think his name was Amos. And he I'm sure he didn't have the easiest life, and part of his ministry, but yeah. So there have been some horrific things, and we've talked about some of these things, but to try to force this all into a racial thing and think you're going to end up with an answer at the end.
When you get to the point
Yeah.
where you defend, you said, and he criticizes for defending what happened to Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake, for all intents and purposes, should have been shot a lot sooner than he was. Okay,
Yeah.
And when you're that far off, Calvin, that really, I tend to believe that you have a different gospel than the one that I hold to.
You know, I'm going to say this. You are, for whatever reason, you just can't, you're just going by the prevailing narrative. And that's why it's just, it boggles my
And whose
attention.
narrative is it? That's the dangerous thing. Whose narrative is it?
Well,
I don't think it's the Lord's.
No, it's not. That's what I'm going to say. It's not
Yeah.
God's narrative
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of, and I don't think it's even the dominant narrative that most African Americans have on these things, James.
No, I agree. No, I
I
agree.
think it's a real minority, but it's the dominant worldview. Unfortunately,
I think it's a minority because the whole defending the police, right?
Right.
You can't get one black community in one state and one city that is for collectively saying let's defund the police.
Yeah.
There is not a black community in America, but yet that was being pushed, right?
Yeah.
You had a few blacks and a few congresswomen
Mm-hmm.
pushing that narrative that most blacks disagree vehemently
No, I know
with.
exactly,
You know?
and to wit, Minneapolis, Minnesota, soundly defeats
Yeah.
that idea.
And it was the blacks that crossed over, I guess, in this and said absolutely not.
I'm sure they did.
We're not for.
I'm sure they did. You know, it's like, you know, do you really want to live in that community where it's total lawlessness, where the
No.
police? I mean, who would?
No.
You know,
No.
that to me, and I'm sure CNN they got a lot of, you know, I'm sure that they were on the side of the defund the police at some
Of
level,
course.
right?
Of course.
The Democrats thought that could be a talking point for.
You know what? You know what that tells me? That the Democrats don't know the black community at all, and the black community just continues to. I just don't get it. How much longer does the black community? I just don't get. There's two big issues that I would say blacks disagree with the Democratic Party, 90% and above. One is to defend the police.
Yeah.
Blacks are now for that. Two is school choice.
Yeah, I know.
90% of the uppers of the black community want school choice.
I know.
I mean, how many more? How many more?
Yeah.
Blacks, and blacks need to find out. You start vote Republican, things will start changing. But for some reason, this spiritual grip, this political grip on the black community, and Democrat Party, I don't get it.
Yeah. So that kind of segues into the bigger question: where are we? Do you think the recent elections, is it a short-term shift? Is it just a reaction against the Biden economy, $5 gas? What do you think?
You mean like the Virginia election, right?
Yeah, Virginia and just across other aspects of the nation, there were some seemingly positive outcomes.
Yeah, and it would have been the governorship in New Jersey had they not stolen it in broad daylight.
Yeah.
But I never underestimate the resiliency of the left.
Yeah.
I mean, they are committed.
Yeah.
They double down. And I never underestimate the gullibility of the American people.
Yeah.
There's one big reality in our culture by which I say this. Calvin, people flee California because of their policies.
Mm-hmm.
They flee to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they do when they go to Texas? They keep voting the way they voted in California.
Though, James, I think I mentioned this.
It.
When Ted Cruz was running, he got of the transplants to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
I think he got a higher percentage of the vote from the transplants than he did overall.
Really?
I think it was
Well,
Ben
maybe it was a
Shapiro.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I think Ben Shapiro said he got 57% of the people who recently moved to Texas. However they
That means
determine that.
that means 43% of the people fled California and kept voting the same way.
Well, yeah, I
That's,
know. No, you're right. I
I
know.
don't get
Well,
it. I
that's
don't get
right.
it. I
Because you
don't
know
get
what?
it.
People move some of it's just the economics, and they're unfortunately, James, they do not think about the worldview. They don't. They're blinded to that. That's it's sad.
I think here's where I've lost. I don't want to say hope because my hope ultimately in Christ is coming back, and my
Right.
eschatological view is it's got to get worse before he comes back. So in some way, hey, bring it on. But I think a culture, because what we're hoping is that people make the connection, right, Kelvin? That people somehow see, think, recognize, discern, and change the way they act politically. I think a culture that has one either accepted transgenderism or is too cowardice to stand up against it, that culture cannot be trusted to think logically and to stand up for truth.
Yeah. No, I
Once
know.
you swallow transgenderism,
Right.
you'll fall for anything.
No, you're right.
I
You're
just
right.
and that's the thing. You have to defeat uh, drag time story hour at libraries before
Right.
something even changes.
Yeah.
You have to.
So I'm gonna say I am glad, for some of the results, but like
I
you,
am too. I am too.
I also think we have it's like the which way is the wind blowing. You cannot always count on that vote, in my opinion. That's the excuse me. That's the concerning thing. Maybe in another year that wind could still be blowing, but 2 years things could you can't say, oh, hey, we've achieved now. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk more about this next week. The Republicans are doing everything they can to slit their own throats by thinking they're going to um, uh, embrace a homosexual agenda as their path to victory. I mean, talk about, I just don't, I can't think of anything as self-deceived and deluded as that.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. The sexual deviance in the country it's one real to run us straight to the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. But here's my thing, Calvin. And let's just be honest. We can talk about it, and then maybe we'll talk about it next week. Let's be honest. People jump on the GOP for embracing this, but who got the GOP to embrace it?
Yeah. Yeah. President Trump at a certain
Trump did.
level.
That's his legacy. That's his legacy. So please, people, do not attack the GOP for embracing this deviance unless you attack the man who actually brought it to the
Well,
GOP.
yeah, I don't know that I would say Trump brought it. He had
He
no,
was the first openly pro-LGBT
yeah,
candidate in the
no,
Republican Party.
right, and he had zero problem with that as a potential strategy, and
Yeah.
as you say, he put Peter Thiel, allowed him to
Absolutely.
speak
At the
at
convention.
the convention. So no, you're right, James. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
we that's what when you drain the swamp, you got to start with your own heart and your own house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
All right.
we that one of the myths is just bad Washington, bad Springfield.
You said one of the myths?
The political myths. It's just all in Washington. It's all in Springfield, and no, it's a little bit closer to home.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
that's part of the bigger perspective. James, I'll say my eschatology is we have to be prepared for the bad and the good, and we press on because I think Christ is King, and we're
He is
waiting
king.
the manifestation of His
We are.
reign in
Absolutely.
time and in eternity. So
Absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
we must shoulder on and press on in the cause of
Yes.
truth. So
regardless.
Well, friends, leave us a comment if you about Rittenhouse or where we are just in the bigger picture. If you have any thoughts on that, we would enjoy hearing from you. Please share this, and if there are topics you would want addressed. We only have a brief time here, but please do that also. So God bless, friends. Have a great day.
God bless.